All right, we're back. We're back like the Seattle Rain, winning a game, getting 3 points.
Let's
We are
go.
back like the Seattle Mariners, taking 2 of 3 in a weekend series at home. We are back like the school year. I don't think I have any
Oh,
other we are
oh,
backs.
that hits too close to home, Kev.
You know what?
Man.
I am not back at work, and I won't be back at work until the end of October. So
Yeah, we'll talk about this later, but that's part of the reason why you're writing so much about the Husky Weber State game.
uh so one thing before we get into our first segment. Are you a night owl or a early bird?
That's a great question. It's very clear for me. I am an early bird.
You're an early bird.
Yep. My mind works better. So, like everything, I mean, you probably have already noticed this, but
Yeah.
almost all of my writing for us is in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I have to adapt, right? So, like when
Yeah.
I was coaching, I had to do more at night. And also,
Yeah.
as a teacher, sometimes you do have to do stuff at night. What
Yeah.
about you?
I've had to adapt for the baby.
Oh, yeah.
I have been an early bird, but I've turned into an early bird and a night owl. And
You're in the stage, man. That's the stage of life.
it is amazing what the human brain can do.
Yeah.
Uh when you're in survival mode. So I only bring that up because two things. The first thing is we're recording this a little later than we usually do on a Sunday night. But the
Yep.
second thing is we'll talk about this later, but the Huskies play Weaver State at 8 o'clock on Saturday night, and I'm notorious for falling asleep in the fourth quarter of the games are playing. So
Kev,
hope
you and me too, man. 8 p.m. starts, Pac-12 after dark, which is no longer now it's Big Ten after dark. I had
no
two
one will be
conversations.
watching that game on
I
the
had
East
two
Coast.
conversations related to this in the last 2 days, actually, that I wanted to share with you. So, one, I have a good buddy who loves the Huskies, and
Yeah.
I saw him at the halftime in the rain game today. He was there, and we were talking. I said, "Are you going to watch this thing? Or are you going to watch it the next day?" Because my memory was like he always falls asleep, like because I have that experience. I fall asleep in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, that's a great time. Like his kids are like my kids' age, like they'll be done, whatever. I go, I remember you not watching. He goes, no, last year I couldn't watch. I'd get too nervous because of the expectations of the Michael
Yeah.
Penix team. So
Yeah.
he would like not watch it live and follow it on
Yeah.
his phone and then watch it the
Yeah.
next day. I was like, why are you even watching sports at this point?
Yeah.
But I kind of
Yeah.
got it. And then the other
Yeah.
one was yesterday, last night. Went to a local establishment with a couple friends and big Husky fan there. And um, he was just like Weber State, man. I don't know, like the Huskies, you going back to the Jimmy Lake times and like losing to Montana. And
Yeah.
he's pretty confident, but he was like, you just don't know what you're going to expect here. So we'll
Yes.
get into that later for sure. But
Well, I want to tell you what we're gonna do here at my household. So, not as easy to get out with a 5-month-old. So
yeah,
we're at the grocery store today, and I turned to Christine. I said, next week we're gonna open up a new bar. It's gonna be called JJ's Tavern. JJ's my son's name. And every week I'm gonna buy a nice beer, a craft beer. It's gonna be like I'm gonna get growler or something, and then we're
yeah.
gonna make bar food, and we're gonna have a menu every Saturday. So
That's amazing.
that's what we're
But
gonna
but are you
do.
starting this at like 7:45 tomorrow next weekend?
Right when the baby goes down, the
Okay.
bar opens up.
I
JJ's
love it.
Tavern. The owner goes away, and then we'll open up the tavern. So,
Wait, is Christine a Husky fan too, or no?
yes, she is.
Okay.
We watch Notre Dame games in our house because she's Notre Dame grad,
Yeah.
and her sister went there, so we'll watch those games too. But I've heard it come out of her mouth. She says that she's a Husky fan, and her son is going to be a Husky fan. So,
That's awesome.
yeah,
I will say, related to Notre Dame, next Saturday is an awesome college football lineup.
yeah,
Notre Dame plays, I think, Texas A&M, both ranked. You got
yeah.
Miami and Florida. Miami has Cam Ward, the Washington State quarterback, transferred there.
Yep.
Georgia's playing Clemson. Like it's insane.
And
It's awesome.
USC versus
And
LSU
USC
on a
LSU.
Sunday. So you get
Yeah.
your Saturday slate and then you get a bonus
Yeah.
Sunday game.
I
So
mean, I might watch all the USC games just to watch my boy Miller Moss,
Miller Moss.
aka Lincoln Elsner's doppelganger. unbelievable how much he looks like him to me. So
So what's our
uh
first segment?
all right, Kev, we're gonna do a little different. We like to keep it fresh, especially a little later at night.
Yeah.
We're going to do an over under segment to start today. So we'll give each other some over under lines. The other person will guess, and then it will lead into some conversation. So, part of the reason we're doing it late tonight is my wife and I are Seattle Reign season ticket holders. They had a 7 o'clock Sunday night kickoff. Is that what they call it in soccer? Kick,
Yeah.
tip,
Matched
match
match
kick,
offs.
match off, and it was because it was televised, and it was Megan Rapinoe's retirement, her jersey retirement, which was very cool. It was a very cool ceremony. They gave out these free bucket hats that I showed you. I wish it was on video so I could show people how it doesn't fit my fat head. Shout out to the Rain people. Thanks for making me feel terrible about myself. Here's
Was
your over
Sue
under.
Bird there? Was Sue Bird there?
Sue Bird's always there, but
Okay.
she's awesome. She stays in the background, like
Yeah,
lets
you
Megan
wouldn't
have
know
her
from the
moment.
telecast. You wouldn't know.
No,
Yeah.
so we also went to Rapinoe's last match in Seattle,
Okay.
last year, and it was an equally big event. Sue was there. You could see her after the game, but she stays in the background. She like lets her have her moment. So
Mm-hmm.
it was cool. It was also a cool match. Like Emery Adames scored in like extra time and then did the Rapinoe celebration from the last World
Yeah.
Cup with the
Yeah.
arms out. It was super cool. It was a cool tribute for a very young player to do.
Well, there's a picture of the two circulating on social media of her as a kid taking a picture with Rapinoe. It's
Oh,
kind of like
that's
these like
cool. I didn't know
LeBron.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So there's
that's
like it's
cool.
kind of like if you've seen the LeBron
Yeah.
James and Jason Tatum things when they're kids, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jason Tatum and who's the quarterback that he has that picture with when they were kids too?
Oh, I
Who's
can't
down?
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just read like threw at the first pitch at a Cardinals game
Yeah.
because they grew up in St. Louis recently.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on a side note, the acquisition we talked about a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
really gave them a spark, and so I'm kind of excited.
They looked good. They
Yeah,
looked good.
but here's the question: over under. Um, do how many retired numbers are there in professional Seattle sports? Over under. I'm
Ooh,
going to set it at 10.5. Do you take over or under?
for 10 and a half.
Including Rapinoe. Here's the two I'm not
Okay,
going to
so
include. We're not going to include the fan number for the Seahawks, number 12, because
yeah.
that's retired. And we're not going to include, I think the Kraken 32 is retired because of the 32nd franchise. So, like, we're not
Are we
including.
including Jackie Robinson? Because I
No, that was the other one. So, not,
yeah.
because it's not a
Okay,
Mariner,
so I think
everybody in baseball. So,
Griffey and Edgar have their
yep,
Mariners.
yep.
Okay, so that's
There's two.
two.
Yep.
And I think the Seahawks have to have at least like five, so that puts us at seven.
Mm-hmm.
The Sonics probably have two, that puts us at nine. And then the Storm haven't done Sue Bird yet. Um, ooh man, we're getting close to one. Oh, I want to say the Seahawks have more. I'm sure the Sounders have done at least one. So what that puts me at 10. Okay, I'm just gonna go over because I think there's more.
Okay, it's a good guess. You're wrong on some of them, but you're right. It's over. So Sue Bird has been retired. They did
Oh,
retire her number.
okay.
Sue Bird and Lauren Jackson both
Oh,
retired numbers. Yep. Sonics have 6.
and not
Gus,
Gary Payton or Sean Kemp yet.
no, they have
Yeah.
Gus Williams.
Nate McMillan.
They have Nate McMillan, Lenny Wilkins, Spencer Haywood, Fred Brown, and Jack Sikma, all recognized in our top 100. I will say.
Yeah.
Seahawks have Kenny Easley, Walter Jones, Steve Largent, Cortez Kennedy. And then you hit the Mariners. So yeah, and then now Megan Rapinoe. So we're over. Sounders have none. They have no retired numbers yet.
If you're the Mariners, you retire 51, obviously. Do you retire it for Randy
Yeah.
Johnson?
Kev, this is like I
Do you
don't
have
know
like a
why.
joint ceremony? What are
I
you
don't know
gonna do?
why I love things like this, like the awkwardness slash amazingness of things like this.
Yeah.
But I love it. And I talk about it with random strangers and they're like, who cares? I'm like, no, I care. Like,
This
do
is
they
what this
do
podcast is
yeah,
for.
do they do a joint ceremony for Ichiro and Randy Johnson?
They
51.
it's just not a natural joinder though, right?
No,
So
not at
like
all. How
Dan
do you think
Wilson and
they
Jamie
ever
Moyer,
talked?
but
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Yeah.
They did talk because I'm
Okay.
pretty sure Ichiro asked Randy Johnson if he could wear 51,
Oh,
which
that's
is
cool.
a
I didn't know
very
that. Okay.
honorable thing to
Okay. Yeah,
do.
yeah,
Um, I will say that it's probably Randy Johnson's prerogative to say like, okay, he wore the number first one.
yeah.
Two, dude is one of the most dominant pitchers of all time.
Yeah.
Ichiro had to ask him for permission. The other end of the spectrum says, well, if we're doing it based on merit, Ichiro has done way more for the organization,
Yeah.
than Randy Johnson.
It should be Ichiro's number, but
They should just
it's
do both.
yeah, they should do both. And maybe they've tried, right? And it's just like
Yeah.
too hard, or maybe there's an ego from someone. I don't know. That's fascinating. Here's the
Well,
other. Go ahead.
no, jersey retirements can be very political. So
Yeah.
A-Rod was on we talked about how A-Rod came to Seattle radio. He was on Seattle Sports Radio. And after the hosts were talking, it was Heward and Salk were
Yep.
talking like, it sounds like he's campaigning to get his number retired.
You can't
He's
retire.
not. He's not going to
No,
get his
it's too
number
short,
retired.
right? Too short.
Yeah,
Although Kenny Easley was really short,
yeah,
but Kenny Easley is like one of the most beloved Seahawks ever because he just destroyed people's souls. A Rod took the money and left and pissed everybody off. So,
yeah.
did you know that Nick Collison's number is retired in Oklahoma City?
Oh no.
So the question is, no, it won't happen. I was gonna say if the Sonics get their history back and they come
Yeah,
back, I think they'll be back in 26, 27 is my guess.
yeah,
They'll retire Peyton for sure. Kemp, it'll be later, but Peyton will be first, and it'll be maybe even in the first year.
yeah,
Like, do they also hang Nick Collison, or is that just in Oklahoma City? It's probably in Oklahoma City. He had way
yeah,
more years there, yeah.
yeah.
But that's wild. He
Get
used to be my
Carlson.
neighbor in Queen Anne, by the way.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
The
and Sue
last thing I'll
Bird.
say
Yeah,
about jersey retirement number, like retiring numbers, I think the threshold it needs to be very high, like
totally.
higher than making like the team Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Right. So there's lots of Mariners in the Mariners Hall of Fame, but you're not going to retire Dan Wilson or Jamie Moyer's number.
yeah. You're not retiring Alvin
Um,
Davis, Jay Buhner,
yeah.
yeah, and even
So
the Seahawks, same thing, right? Like
yeah.
Hasselbeck's in the Ring of Honor, Jim Zorn. They're not retiring those numbers.
No. No, no,
I
no.
think you have to make the NFL, like for the Seahawks, it's NFL Hall of Famers, right? Like Easley's in the
Yeah.
NFL Hall of Fame, Jones, Largent, Cortez. Um, I mean,
You have everything has to feel good about like that's part of the
I was
legacy
gonna
thing.
say, how
Like
about
because of
Russ?
Russell Wilson, right? He's
Number three's in Seattle.
yeah, at number three is a very popular number.
You
Oh,
just do. Here's what we're gonna do, Kev. You and I are gonna campaign about 5 years from now, and this podcast has gone national.
yeah.
We're gonna campaign for a joint A Rod Russell Wilson retirement day.
See, that's more interesting because these guys are all about themselves. It'd be
Yeah.
who'd get the more press, everything. Yeah.
And then
Uh,
I'll throw in, let's just retire it for Dale Ellis, number 3 in the Sonics. Throw him in there. All right. Next over under, Kev.
yep.
What do you got?
We got Dan Wilson was named the Mariners manager
Yeah.
last week.
Still wild. Yes.
Uh, there are 31 games left. 31 more games with Dan Wilson as manager.
So the over under
Um,
is, does he manage
31.
more than 31
31,
games?
yes, or less.
This is a really hard question, don't you think?
I
Or do you
think
think it's
it's
not hard?
I think it's connected with Dipoto, right?
Yeah.
Because and we don't know. We're just fans. Like we don't know who made the decision.
Right.
Like was it Dipoto or was it ownership?
Right.
Who decided this? Because if it was Dapota's decision, then it's like, well, you just ownership just starts over, right? Hire a new
Yep.
GM gets the manager they want.
Right.
I think that's the tension.
I mean, the weirdness was that they named him manager and then like got very touchy about calling him an interim, but then there was no information about a contract or anything,
Yeah.
which makes you believe he's not signed anything beyond this year. I guess it's kind of linked to the next question, which I
Yeah.
think, if I remember right, is 31 games left. Over under, Kev, 16 wins for the Mariners. Like, are they going to go 16 and 15 or better?
I'm gonna try to reverse curse us. We won 2 of 3. Mariners won 2 of 3 against a decent team. Um, and I'm saying they're gonna go under. I don't think they're gonna win. See, we've had too much
So they'll be,
magic the past 2 years, so that's my reasoning. Was we've
yeah.
had a lot of magic. I don't think the hitting's fixed.
So they'll be under 500 the rest of the way, which might make them finish, anywhere at 500 or worse.
Yeah.
And if that's true, in my opinion, I take the I take the push on Dan Wilson of the exact 31 games, and then he'll be done. Because
Okay.
if they're 81 and 81 or worse, like they're not gonna. I'd be shocked if they roll with Dan Wilson next year, because I kind of feel like maybe Jerry Dipoto won't be here either.
Yeah. And I have
Um,
other thoughts, and I won't go into this because this will be up tomorrow morning. But what does it mean for a man? Like, what's the impact of a
yeah,
manager, right? And that one part of it is like, does a manager have any impact? And then if
specifically
so,
in baseball, you mean?
in baseball,
Yeah,
and then if the manager does have an impact, how much of an impact? And I think that those questions, uh, that's kind of what's been swirling on my mind and the debate around, yeah, you fire the manager, but did you solve anything?
right,
Uh, Dipoto does not seem like the person that would think that. So I'm
right.
on the side that I think it was ownership, where they just went into their favorite bucket of 1995 and wanted to get the poll numbers up.
Kev, I have to tell you this quick story from school. We had our back to school teacher in service,
Yeah.
and a wonderful, wonderful teacher. She likes the Mariners, but she doesn't follow them all the time.
Yeah.
And a couple other teachers who are hardcore Mariner fans were sitting around at breakfast, and we're talking about what are they? They're the 95 bucket, as you said. Like, what is this Dan Wilson, right? And she's like, wait, Dan Wilson? Like Dan the man? Like the Dan the man is the manager? And we're like, yeah. She's like, that's awesome. Right? And like wonderful. She's got 2 young kids. She's just like,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Like,
Yeah.
and we're like, well, and then we said, yeah, just more fireworks and bobbleheads, just make everyone happy. She goes, I do love the bobbleheads. Like, she completely proved our point of
Yeah.
like, it's really what
Well,
they're.
the Mariners got her vote.
Yeah,
So
yeah. She was like, I'm way more likely to watch it now with Dan Wilson. I'm
she
like,
was a swing voter and now she's
may
back in.
yeah, I'm like, maybe they know what they're doing to make money, and we're the idiots who live and die with every game that I'm sitting there like
Yeah. No,
so nervous watching Andres Munoz today.
we deserve it. Every time they lose and we suffer, it's our own
It's
fault.
so true. It's so true. Let's stay with coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's go to you. Is it Noel? I don't want to mispronounce her name.
I
Or is it
believe her name is
Noel?
Noelle Quinn. Yes,
Noelle Quinn.
former Storm player,
And
current
now
Storm
coach.
coach. Yes.
And she's been with the Storm how long?
She took over in the middle of a year for God, I'm not going to remember his name, but he was a
It was a
very,
dude.
very old guy.
Yeah, yeah,
She took over for him in the middle of a year in 2021. She was
yeah.
an assistant coach before
And
that,
that
so
was
she's been there.
after the championship. The championship was 2019?
Yes, yes, and she played in Seattle until 2018, so she kind of rolled like
Okay.
right into a coaching career.
Yeah.
And then in 2021, she coached 26 games, and then she coached 36, and then 40 last year. So,
Over
it,
under 1.5 years as coach. Remaining years.
okay. So people love her. Um, she's seemingly a great person, advocates for rights, players like her. I think it's got to be under. I'm frustrated with her as a coach right now.
But your
Uh,
frustration doesn't equal the ownership's frustration, right?
you're right, but they decided to trade the number 4 overall pick last year, which could have been Rickea Jackson, who's having a nice year with the Sparks. They traded that pick to go with veterans. So they brought in Skylar Diggins Smith and Umike, and to put with Magabor, who has gotten better, Jordan Horton, who's gotten better, and Jewel Lloyd. That's basically their five. They don't really play a bench right now. They're not really developing a ton of young players. Like Nico Mule, everyone's excited. She never plays. And when I watch them, they seem the same. They're gonna plateau. And so people love Quinn. She went 16-10, took over in the middle of the year, lost in the second round of the playoffs. That's tough. This is granted with Sue Bird, Jewel Lloyd, Brianna Stewart.
Yeah.
2022, they go second in the West. They lose in the conference semifinals. Last year, they were Stewart left, Bird retired. They were terrible. 11-29, missed the playoffs. This year, they're fourth in the West. I have a feeling they're going to finish sixth. I think Vegas is going to pass them. Indiana's on fire. Maybe they'll be fifth, but they're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. But they're old. So, like, what are we doing? And I just don't see like adjustments and differences. The sets she's running at the start of the year are the same she's running after the Olympic break. It varies.
Do you believe though that with the roster they have that they could actually compete? I mean, that she could coach them to wins over the top tier? I don't think so. I don't think they have the players.
I don't think they're better than the Liberty.
Yeah.
And the Aces when they're good, but the Aces actually aren't playing up to their potential either.
And they play the Sun this weekend.
But I do think they could be better than the Sun or the Lynx potentially.
Yeah.
If they played up to their potential. So, and then you get in a series and maybe, the Aces are good, but maybe you figure something out. I don't know. I would like to see them play above their potential. I have not seen that from them.
Yep.
So I just think, ownership is, people like her. She's well liked. If they plateau this year and then they go in with an old roster next year, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
It's just like the Mariners. Like eventually something needs to change, right? And it's rarely blaming players. I mean, we should really never blame Scott Service. The Mariners can't hit. But that's what eventually is going to happen to kind of placate fans. Now, I don't know. Storm fans are different. They don't seem to care. Like you go to the games, everybody's happy. So I don't know.
Imagine a world where ownership would have to please the fan. Like if the fans had, it'd be so interesting because you'd have totally irrational fans, right?
Right.
And I've been reading I've been following the election, so I'm thinking in terms of like polling and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like
if you did polling every month and then you had to make decisions.
Yeah, you're the former econ teacher, so
current econ.
Oh, current. You're teaching econ this year. Okay. All right. Nice thought experiment.
Yeah.
Experiment. Okay, what's next?
We'll see what happens. I'm not excited about the Storm right now. All right. Let's transition to the Seahawks here.
Yeah.
7.5 wins this year.
Over.
I know, right?
Way over. Dude, I saw a bet. It's $100 for that. If you bet 100, you'll win 750. That's a tempting bet, but it's a dumb bet because the 49ers are in the division.
What is the bet?
Bet 100 to win 750.
For what? For over 7.5 wins?
No, to win the NFC West.
Oh, to win the NFC West.
To win the NFC West.
Yeah. I mean, I think you should put some down on it. Like, Niners have a lot of drama right now.
Yeah.
And McCaffrey's already banged up, and Ayuk doesn't get traded, and Trent Williams is holding out.
And Brock Purdy's Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, man. I'm all in on the Seahawks.
So you're over 7.5.
I've already bet on them to make the playoffs. I already went to the casino and threw that down.
You need a little more than 7.5 to make the playoffs.
That's how strongly I believe. Like they're making the playoffs. Like
so I guess the question is, if Vegas set this line, what does Vegas see? I think Vegas sees what?
Well, and yeah, well, see, and here's the thing. I mean,
2 games against
Vegas
the Niners.
Sees a defense that was 31st in the league last year, and they see, honestly, like Geno Smith is not seen as a top 15 quarterback, probably, right?
Yeah, and a bad offensive line.
And they got new coaches, and like, what does that mean? Now, the other thing is Vegas doesn't set lines that widely different, right? So, the highest I'm looking at this contest where you can pick every team in the league. The Niners are 11.5. Chiefs are 11.5. Then there's a ton of teams. Like the Browns are 8.5. The Chargers are 8.5. The Raiders are 6.5. The Saints are 7.5. So everybody's kind of in that range.
Yeah.
Because Vegas is not trying to lose a bunch of money. So
Yeah.
Seahawks at 7.5 makes sense, but I'm over. And with that, would you be over Kenneth Walker, 92, 925.5 rushing yards?
How many did he have last year? I should have looked this up. I'm sorry. Um, my gut says no. I just think they're going to be passing the ball way more. Not for a lack of um what we are going to see is some like insane game where if the offense is humming like I think it will, you might get a team that will over defend against the pass, and then um Walker will have like a ridiculous day on the ground.
So
Um
you're basing
yeah.
this off Ryan Grubb.
Yeah, you know. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, do you
The
remember
O-line.
Ryan? But do you
Yeah.
remember Ryan Grubb giving Dylan Johnson the ball like 40 times in a
Yeah, that's
game?
what I was saying. USC's deep. That's the
Yeah.
exact game I was thinking.
And
It was the
then
USC game.
you have to
And
also think about
yeah,
that Mike McDonald is the head coach. And what do the Ravens do? They play defense and they run the
run the
ball.
ball. Yeah. Run the ball. Run
So
the damn ball.
Kenneth Walker in
Yeah.
2022, this actually surprised me. He had 1,050 yards. And then last year he had a 905 and he wasn't as good. But
Oh,
I think,
yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, I've already bet it. So he's over.
Over. So you think over? Okay.
I think Kenneth Walker is going to be. I mean, you'll see tomorrow, Kev, when we do our fantasy draft
Yeah.
together, and I take Kenneth Walker in the second round.
I guess it
Everybody has a
just
shot.
depends on how good the defense is, because that's another consideration. Defense does well, you run the ball more.
Totally, yeah, and you have more plays. You know that they were last in the NFL in plays per game last year on
Oh
offense
man.
because their defense sucks so bad, and then
Yeah.
they'd have these terrible 3-and-outs and whatever, and we're supposed to believe that Shane Waldron's going to magically be amazing on the Bears. Mm, don't believe it. Sorry, that's my hot take. All right, I transitioned to your first love in life before Christine came along.
Yeah.
Weber State UW.
Yeah.
Weber State is getting 27.5 points. So this isn't really an over under.
Yeah.
But are you taking Weber State in the points?
Am I taking the points and
Yeah.
Weber State
No, Weber State. Are
and
you
in their
taking the points
points?
or do you think UW's going to win by
Actually,
28
yes.
over?
I'm gonna take Weber State in the points.
You're
And
like
here's
the
why.
biggest Husky homer.
No, 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 no. I I think here Weber State's number 22, the number 22 ranked FCS team. I know people are like, what does that mean? They're not bad. They're
Yeah.
not bad in in their division, and there's over 100 teams in FCS. So they're one of the top teams in the FCS. Not in the Big Sky. They're like the Big Sky is like the SEC of the FCS, I think. I've gone deep on this. And I just think the Huskies have a lot going on, a lot of new things where I don't, it's,
Like it's not
I
going to
take,
click on the
yeah, it's
first
not, yeah, I
game
think
game.
Weber
Yeah.
State's going to get like a touchdown or two. I don't think they're going to score a whole bunch.
Where
I have my score prediction already. I'm not going to
okay,
reveal
don't
that
reveal
until
that,
Thursday.
but
Yeah.
if I told you Will Rogers, I made up an over under because I couldn't find one. I'm
Yeah.
going to say 245.5 passing yards. So,
Yeah.
right around 245. It's going to
Yeah.
go over that or under. Are they going to run the ball more? Like, what do you think that it's going to look like?
I think 245 is actually a good number.
Oh, thanks.
Uh,
I should work in Vegas.
yeah. I, I I think I think he goes over just barely, like maybe like a 250.
Okay, we'll see
Yeah.
later when I
Yeah.
give you my top five if you think Will Rogers can reach the territory that I'm gonna give to you.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a
And
little
I think
preview.
yeah. Yeah. Anything else on the Huskies?
No, I think we hit the over unders.
Okay.
And we covered a lot of Seattle sports in a fun little way here. So
I love that. We should bring
yeah.
this segment back. I
All
really
right,
like it.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next week, Kev, just real quick.
Yeah.
Like summer, right? It's
Yeah.
it's we've had fun figuring this out and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
like pretty soon we're gonna have a lot to talk about, and we're gonna have to really focus on these games. Like
Yeah.
next week, we're gonna have a Seahawks preview. We can talk Husky football.
Yeah.
We can talk if we want Sounders, rain, storm,
None of
whatever.
these other things that we've been talking about end.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then Mariners will still be going, and who knows what we'll
Yeah.
talk about.
They'll be
Oh,
the
let me
third
give you
down.
one more over under. I said the Mariners. Okay, I went to the game on Friday, and Randy Arozarena took one of the worst paths to a fly ball I've ever seen in my life. Luis Castillo gave up this hit and was like, "Oh, that's an out." Like turned his body language was like it's an out. And Randy Arozarena looked like he was drunk. Like what was he doing? I don't know. So over under Arozarena terrible routes to a fly ball 5.5 rest of the year.
Yeah. Over.
Perfect.
Because the next day he had an amazing catch and like fell flat on his face, but I'm pretty sure like a lot of amazing catches are caused by like bad
Yes.
positioning or like
Yes.
running the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Randy is a whole experience I did not know that we were getting. Like
Yeah.
he gets mad every time he gets hit by a pitch, really
Yeah.
mad. He doesn't really hit anything. He's not hitting for power, and his outfield defense is real bad. So that's
The
something to look
Rays knew
forward to
what they
this
were
week.
doing. By the way, they play the
They always
Rays.
do. The Rays
So
always do
maybe
know what they're doing.
we'll like give them buyer's remorse.
Yeah, we
Oh
might. All right,
God.
that was my last one. So that was a bonus. We're gonna move from it's related to Seattle, but
Yeah.
kind of a big story this week that maybe some people didn't see is that the NWSL, the Women's Soccer League,
Yeah.
reached a new labor contract that will start in 2027, I believe. So the new one ends in 2026.
Yeah.
A couple things. They signed a huge, we've talked about this before on the podcast. They signed a pretty big media rights deal that will end in the middle of this new labor deal that goes till 2030. So one could say Jessica Berman, the commissioner, is actually committing money in this labor deal that they don't have yet, right? Like if the league doesn't do well, which I don't think is going to happen, and they don't have a media rights deal to pay for higher salaries and different things, then that's problematic. So she's banking on the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
The couple things, they're raising some salaries, which is really important. They're going to have a salary floor, which is similar to some other sports. But the biggest changes are no college draft, no draft whatsoever, no expansion draft, no drafting players. We have not seen this in American sports. This is common in European soccer. They don't have drafts. Like, people don't get drafted to Man U and Chelsea.
Yeah.
But we have it. American teams have it. It's very American.
Yeah.
The second one is players can have their rights over who they get traded to or not. So if you want to trade a player, the Reign just made a trade recently.
Yeah.
Uh, you can say no.
You get a veto.
You get a
So
veto all the
it
time. Not like one veto. It's
yeah.
just like all the
Yeah,
time. You
and
get to
it's
pick.
not so it's not an unfamiliar concept. Like people can get it in their contracts, like no trade clauses. We hear about them all the time.
Yes, and in
This is
fairness,
something where they get it, right? Like they're
yes, and
entitled
and
to
in
it.
fairness, the stars in the NWSL have already kind of had this without it being
Yeah.
official. So like Megan Rapinoe plays in Seattle because she wants to play in Seattle.
Yeah.
Rose Lavelle wanted to leave, she left, right? So like it happens all the time. Sydney LaRue wanted to go play in Orlando. I think in Orlando, Crystal Dunn went to go to Portland because her boyfriend lived
Yeah.
there, right? So
Yeah.
it's happened before, but now it's everybody.
Yeah.
And then I think this is the part I'm trying to figure out still. I think there's free agency every year.
Yeah.
And that
There were
part
some
blows my
yeah,
mind.
there were some limits um on the free agency part. I do want to go back to the draft thing because that
Yeah,
was my
let's do it.
the first reaction to the draft was, well, how about the sucky teams, right?
Yeah.
Because that there the positive is it's a player empowerment thing. So you graduate from college, and if a team can afford you and you're good, and they want you and you want them, and it's a match, then that match happens and it's a win-win for everybody, right? Especially the player. The issue is, and I think the reason why the draft works in all these other American sports leagues is because Caleb Williams, star prospect, Chicago Bears have sucked, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then they get Caleb Williams, they get the best player in the draft, and the idea is well, getting the highest potential player will help improve this team, and if you improve this team, then um, the team will be competitive and it'll be good for the league, right? So it's not this idea where the rich get richer, it's this idea where things will be equal.
Yeah.
That's the thought of the draft, and I think
Yeah,
that's
that was the original
yeah,
intent,
right?
right? Like, is you're gonna take, and all these drafts have had different versions, right? So the NBA has gone to, well, it's not just you get number one, because then people were tanking, right? So when
Yeah.
LeBron James is coming out, or Zion Williamson, or Victor Wembanyama, they're like, do we tank completely to get the worst? And then the product is terrible because you're watching the worst team try to lose, and they can't have that for entertainment value. So they changed the rules to like ping pong balls and percentages. And so now it's like you get a better percentage if you're the worst team, but there's no guarantee. And the NFL doesn't have that. They have worst team gets first pick, right? So you do see tanking, but people have said it's harder to tank in the NFL. And I think to your point, like MLS and NWSL, like soccer just doesn't have that type of impact player come through the draft to turn a franchise around.
Yeah. And here's the other thing that is interesting about, and Major League Baseball deals with this as well,
Yeah.
but soccer especially, there's an international component. So
Right. Totally.
besides, okay, so we'll talk about this within the context of the draft, but I'm going to transition to another point I want to make. But with the draft, if you have the draft, like what's the pool of players in the NWSL? Well, presumably like college, right? And
Yep.
so and then everyone else gets signed, right? Internationally. Arguably, most of the talent's outside of the US, right? So because they're pulling, there's just a larger pool of international players. Um, and I think that kind of feeds into this. Well, let's just get rid of the draft and just have open signing season. Brings me to my second point. The the CBA, this deal has a lot of these player friendly provisions in them. Like
Yeah.
there's more paid leave. There's other protections for the players. They have like some more vacation, which was interesting because we were talking to our guest Sam Hyatt, and she's talking about, well, you don't get a lot of time off.
Right. Right.
And I think there's something in there about like all the fields have to be like grass or something like that.
Oh,
Like
wow. That'd
there's
be
these
big for the rain. Yeah.
there's there's these different things in there, and part of the idea is like we want to attract these international players. That's one thing, and then we want to retain them and keep them here, keep them in this league and make it a good league and make it a
Yep.
premier league, right? You watch the Brazil versus US in the Olympics, a lot of those players are in the NWSL, and you're kind of the commissioners maybe forward thinking and thinking like, hey, let's kind of protect our product.
Right. Yeah, I saw
um
somebody say like their goal is to be the league where when you watch the Olympics and Brazil's playing the US, every player on both rosters is in the NWSL.
Kind of like, right, the NBA was like the idea,
Right.
right?
Well, this
Like
is,
we're
and this is goes to my point. So
yeah.
I think why they can do it, why the league would agree to this, because there's a lot of like I MLB, NBA, NFL. I mean, the NFL is definitely the most restrictive towards players. Like they're just not going to agree to this. Because if you're Caleb Williams and you're drafted number one overall, like what are you gonna do if you don't want to like you're like, I'm gonna go
Well,
play.
Eli Manning did it.
He forced his way to another team,
Yeah.
but you're not gonna go play in another league,
Oh yeah.
right?
That's
So
great.
like what do you play flag football and try to be that guy that thinks he's better than Mahomes for
Well,
the
we've
Olympics?
seen a little bit with the NBA. These guys skipping. Well, that's skipping college.
No, yeah, and you're
That's a
right.
little
And
different.
if but your fame and your endorsements and everything, right? It's why
Yeah.
Messi came to America. Like the endorsements are insane.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's going to think the MLS is a better place, but if you're Messi finishing your career, you just added millions in endorsements, and he already had millions upon millions, but
Yeah.
he's now the face of everything in the U.S.
Yeah.
So if you're a NWSL player and you have free agency, yeah, you can go play in a great league in Spain and France and England. There's competitions. The NWSL has to compete and be more like them. So you eliminate the draft, you give them more agency and where they can play for everybody. And it is. I think you hit it. You had the right words. It's forward thinking, and I'm fascinated to see what happens because the article I read, the WNBA was already like, "Oh, that's interesting,"
Yeah.
and
And
they
they're
have an agreement
opt
coming
out.
up. Yeah,
Yeah. They can opt out of,
yeah,
and yeah, no, they're gonna get everything they want.
yep.
I
And
think
and I
Brianna Stewart
was
was savvy with their little league that they're putting.
totally. My wife also brought up a great point. I was talking to her about it. She's a women's soccer coach who played women's soccer at a high level. She's like, it also matters politically for some of these women, like which states in the U.S. Um, support gay rights. If you're
Yeah.
a player who's LGBTQ,
Yeah.
what about women's rights? Like
Yeah.
these are issues in states
Yeah.
um, that will matter to somebody, and they want to have more autonomy over where they get to play, which makes a ton of sense, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's really fascinating. Player empowerment in the NBA has skyrocketed. Like the players are empowered, their salaries are insane. The NWSL is doing it a little bit differently, and I'll be interested to see if it works, if it makes sense. Um, and
Yeah.
all the things. I love all the like
Yeah.
next parts, right? So like,
Yeah.
what happens to the players in college? What's
Yeah.
their negotiation like? All that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
it'll be fun to see.
Great news. Great news.
Yep. Good for the NWSL. Potentially, you know, big news for American sports, depending on how it goes.
Yeah.
Um, all right, we wanted to before we get to our top five, we wanted to talk a little bit of Husky football. It's coming up this week. We want to look down the line. We've previewed every game up to the last three. We've done extensive previews either on the podcast or on the site. We've linked to them. You can go find them, look at our previews. Kevin's a little bit more optimistic about the results than I am, right, Kev? I think you think
Yeah.
they're going to go win in Rutgers. I'm not so sure. You think they could win in Iowa? I mean, I think they can win these games. I'm just a little bit more skeptical.
Yeah. So we
So we
have
have three
three
left.
games. I'm gonna give you one line on each. What's in
Perfect.
my head?
Let's do it.
Okay, Penn State, and these are all November games. Penn State on the road. Penn State's a college football playoff contender.
Yeah.
This is the road game for the Huskies, and it's their biggest road.
Oh
It's
yeah.
Penn State's biggest home game. They have this thing called the Whiteout, and it's one thing for them to all wear white, but it's this tradition where they kind of label it like the biggest game. It
Yep.
always sells out every year. Ticket prices, the average ticket price for this game, $250. I don't think the Huskies are going to win this game. So
Even the
yeah,
optimistic Kev.
yeah, no, there's no
Uh,
way. I'm not.
here's here's my analysis. So they have three defenders in the top 50 NFL prospects: a linebacker, a safety, and a D end.
Oh God.
They have a cornerback room that is six deep. They have stud running backs. The only hope the Huskies have, which might be this similar with all the Big Ten, is
Yeah,
the quarterback for Penn State is like
Drew Aller. I
yeah,
think
and
that's his name.
he's like check down Charlie, and I say that
Yeah,
like Charlie Whitehurst on the Seahawks
yeah,
is
yeah,
always check down.
yeah,
He doesn't throw the ball down the field.
yeah,
So could the Huskies just outscore them? Maybe, but that whiteout game,
yeah,
that's gonna be hard.
yeah. Next game, UCLA. They are the fourth Pac-12 team to migrate to the Big Ten, and they are the worst team out of the four teams.
Yeah.
UCLA has just never been great. Deshaun Foster's their new coach. Chip Kelly didn't believe in the product, so he went to another Big Ten school in the
Yep.
offseason. He didn't even become the coach. He became the head coach. He became the offensive coordinator. He
Yep.
willingly demoted himself. And that shows what UCLA's potential is for this upcoming year. Like, if he believed that they could be good next year, I think he would have stayed. But he just
It's interesting that UCLA hired Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator. He was the Chiefs' offensive coordinator before
Okay.
the last one,
Yeah.
and he was the head coach for the Commanders and didn't work out. Like the thing I've heard on podcasts is he interviews really poorly, but he's
Yeah.
a really good offensive mind. So you've got him, who's a running back in the
Yeah.
day when I was growing up, and Deshaun Foster as head coach, who I will just say had one of the worst press conferences I've ever seen in my
Yeah,
life.
it was one of those awkward
Yeah.
ones.
So if yeah.
I,
Former Husky recruit, right? Ethan Garbers is their quarterback, or is that the
yeah, no, no,
brother?
no. Ethan Garbers was on the team in
Okay.
20 something something.
So
Um,
they'll go as far as him and their receivers go, but the
yeah,
Huskies have to win this game.
yeah, that's it, and it's a home game for the
It's a home
Huskies
game.
too.
Yep.
So, and
And
then the
then,
third,
oh
yeah,
boy.
yeah. So instead of finishing the calendar, the regular season against Wazoo, you get the next
Mm-hmm.
best thing, which is Oregon.
Yep.
And Oregon is the trendy pick. So
Oh
College
yeah.
Game Day had they had their set for week 0 in
Yep.
Ireland, and the coaches were picking, I mean not the coaches, the
Yep.
anchors were picking their,
Including Nick Saban. Yep.
including Nick Saban, were picking their national title winners, and it was basically Georgia or Oregon.
Yep.
Um and
By the
I
way,
guess,
Saban was right next to Pat McAfee. And Saban's actually been on his show, I think.
oh yeah, he was on the show where McAfee got drunk.
Oh, really? Okay.
On Friday, they got drunk at a bar.
Oh, nice.
I don't
Well,
think Saban was drinking, but
no,
everyone else was.
Pat McAfee started barking when he picked Georgia, like in Saban's face, and Nick Saban's face. You got to Google this. Was like,
Uncomfortable.
what am I doing here? Why am I here? Why can't I just go back to my field that's named after me in my cozy office? And you think I bet he has a better office than Kalen
Yeah.
DeBoer in Alabama.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Saban, you ruined everything.
Yeah.
You ruined, you
Oh,
ruined,
totally.
yeah, you
Yeah.
ruined so many things. And you,
Um,
potentially he's ruined game day because he's
he might
just,
have. He
yeah,
might have. He's not great on
if
there.
it's
Let me
already
tell
been
you.
ruined. Yeah.
Let me tell
So,
you.
yeah, they're the trendy pick. Dylan Gabriel, quarterback
Yeah.
transfer from, they just reloaded. And then
They're so
they took
loaded.
Jabbar Muhammad from the Huskies.
So, Kev, I was going to ask you this. I looked up, I have this website I always go to. I don't even know if
Yeah.
it's good or credible. This is bad by me because I teach kids to find credible sources. It's called NFL Draft Buzz, and
Yeah.
it's loaded with information.
Yeah.
Jabbar Muhammad is their number one NFL prospect on that site. How does that? Oh, your face tells it all. That's all I wanted to see.
Oh, that hurts.
Their third best prospect is Josh Connerly, who is
Yeah.
from Rainier Beach High School in Seattle.
Oh, see, the only, okay, the portal, the Jabbar Muhammad moving to Oregon, it's like all these other guys went to these other places.
Yep.
Two of the O linemen went to Ole Miss. A couple people went to Alabama and
Right.
followed DeBoer there. But the Jabbar Muhammad transfer,
It's
I think
brutal.
that's just like, that's unforgivable. And they probably gave him, he probably has a lot of money, a lot of NIL
Oh
Nike
yeah.
money. So,
Phil Knight's
good for
money.
him.
Yep.
Good for him. But
Oregon's winning this game. I'm sorry, Kev. Oregon's going to win this game.
and it's a road game too.
But here's the best part. If the Huskies do win somehow in Oregon and like ruin Oregon's chances for something,
Yeah.
and it will be what, the fourth win in a row for the Huskies at that point.
Oh yeah, it'll be so sweet.
Oh, it would
Yeah.
be better than, it's almost like it would be the best. Like,
Yeah,
because
I'd have
Oregon
no
fans would just
problem with
lose it.
Jetfish leaving
Yeah,
after that.
yeah, exactly.
Just replace it. Doesn't matter who the coach is. We'll
Yeah,
beat Oregon
whatever.
every year.
Yeah, bring John Kitna back. Is he
Oh
still
yeah,
coaching
yeah.
still?
We'll clip this up and it'll just I'll just, maybe this will be our viral hit, and we'll get on the Oregon Twitter, and
Yep.
we'll be crowned idiots by
Remind me to tell you more about my different years tailgating in Oregon when
oh
we get closer to that game.
yeah, that was
So
really brave of you.
yeah.
Let's move to top five.
Top five.
I will not sing. I got five more. It's
Oh,
a little too late.
all right.
We're
That's
getting late
fair.
in the night.
That's fine.
Seahawks.
Okay,
Seahawks
I'm
have
ready.
had several single season wide receivers in single seasons go over 1,000 yards.
Yep.
Okay. There are 6 different people in the top 10. Can you
Hmm.
name those 6 receivers?
So these are all people that went over 1,000 yards in Seattle.
Yeah. Yes.
I like that you hesitated. Well, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are two of the people.
Yeah. I want to make sure I had uh, yeah. DK Metcalf had 1303 in 2020, which is number 1.
Tyler
Tyler Lockett's
Lockett's
at number 7,
he's done it
2021.
4 times, I think.
Yeah, 1175. So I'm saying top 10.
Oh,
most
top
receiving,
10 best
most receiving.
receiving yard
Yes.
seasons
Yeah.
in Seattle.
Yeah. There's
I've named
six
two of them.
different.
There's six people. Okay,
In
and
the
I
top
named
10.
two of them.
Yep.
All right, Steve Largen's on there.
Yeah, he's got
He's got a
number
lot of them.
2, number
Yeah.
4, number 5, number 8, number 9. He's like the Katie Ledecky of 1,000. He's the Katie Ledecky of
Wait,
these
so
ones.
he's not number one.
No, DK Metcalf's
Oh,
number
DK
1.
is number one. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So you've already named 4,
yep.
right?
I'm gonna Joey Galloway.
Nope.
I knew it. I
Strike
knew I
1.
should have
You
not
got
done
you
that.
got one more strike.
I knew I should not have done that. Okay, I'm gonna throw out a name. Well, let me see. Brian Blades.
Nope, number 14. He did get over 1,000 yards though.
Dang it.
So
Okay.
he's had a
I was
couple.
gonna say Mike Williams because when I was doing the top 100 stuff,
Yeah.
Mike Williams had a sneaky Seahawks season. The old Mike Williams, not the
Yeah,
one
yeah,
still
yeah.
playing.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
is he
yeah.
not in the top 10 either?
No, he's not.
Oh,
Let me
geez.
give you the others.
Yeah, give me
So
the
it
others.
goes DK1, Steve Largent at 2. Number 3 in 2002, Corin Robinson,
Oh
12,
yeah.
40.
He had
And
one good
then,
year.
yeah,
Yeah.
4, 5 was Steve Largent. Number 6, Daryl Jackson,
Yeah.
04,
I should have gone Daryl Jackson instead
1199.
of Brian Blades.
And then
Who's next?
the last one was Bobby Ingram at number 10 in 2007 at the age of 34,
That was his best year. I think it was his
1147.
only, I remember from doing the
Yeah,
top 100, it was his only 1,000 yard season.
yeah. Surprisingly,
Sydney,
his Doug
Sydney
Baldwin.
Rice, Sydney
Yeah.
Rice get 1,000 yard season.
Um, no.
Oh,
But Galloway did have
yeah.
three,
He
not
just
in the
didn't get
top
enough.
10. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one, Kev. I like that one. That was good.
Yeah.
Mine's similar actually, and it's Huskies because of course this is a big Husky week for you. You're very
Yeah.
excited. You're
Yeah.
gonna have like 75 posts
Yeah.
coming out, which you're just taking after me, spamming people's inboxes today, despite your pleas
Guess
for
what?
me
Guess
not
what?
to.
So guess what? We lost 2 subscribers,
Yep.
but we gained 2.
Yeah.
So
We're just weeding them out, Kev. We're weeding the people out who can't handle the fantasy rankings.
yeah,
I
there we go.
couldn't tier the running backs and wide receivers together. I had to have separate posts. So if you're getting ready for your draft, you could just search your inbox
Yeah.
and find what you need. Like tomorrow,
Yeah.
you're going to do it. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be drafting with you, and you won't admit it till next week, but you're going to go on your Gmail and you're going to look up and be like, oh, what's Elsa's tiers? I just use third person. For like tier 8 wide receivers.
Yeah.
And you're
Well, I
gonna look,
did get a text from some people like, I need to talk to the author of your running back article.
oh, what were they mad about?
Let me see. Let me read
Yeah,
this out.
give me some feedback. I like
This
this
was
because they
the
don't tell me.
this
My
was
family
the
just sends me texts that say like, "I love you. You write so well." They're like so nice to me.
okay, no, this was for the quarterback rankings. It says
Okay.
Jaden Daniels will finish much higher than Caleb Williams in fantasy. Brian treating them like Dogecoin. I'd like to talk to the editor.
I like that. First of all, I think there's an absolute possibility Jaden Daniels does because of the rushing yards.
Yeah.
But I also know that Jaden Daniels is super injury prone. He runs like a baby deer in the forest and is going to get smacked by some linebacker. And number two, he's like 28 and he wasn't good until 1 year ago.
Yeah, and he played against subpar
And he's
competition.
on the Commanders. Like,
yeah, Michael Penix should have won the Heisman.
Oh, yes. Anyway, yeah, what the great part about putting rankings out is, in January, everybody could tell me how wrong I was. All right. Here we go. Huskies, Will Rogers. I set that over under 245 and a half. Yeah. He's going to need a lot more than that to make this list. Single game passing yards, Husky history. Okay. So similar to yours, top 10. You have to name 5. You're going to get one of them. So just give it to me right away.
Penix.
Michael Penix. Here's what's amazing, Kev. I didn't know this. Michael Penix has the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, and number 8 single game throwing yards in Husky history in a game. Yeah. That's insane. 516 is number 1 against Arizona in 2022.
Yeah. He's the greatest Husky player ever.
Ooh. We're going to talk about that next week. I got some running backs and receivers I like to throw in the mix, but I might agree with you. I I want to be clear. I love Michael Penix.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
feeling I had for Michael Penix, it's going to get weird. The feeling I had for Michael Penix as a Husky quarterback, I haven't.
He's
He's awesome.
ridiculous.
Like, and
Yeah.
the way he throws a football, I can't wait for Kirk Cousins to decide that he wants
He's
to
retired.
spend
Yeah.
more time
He wants to get up in the booth.
on Netflix. Yeah. All right. So you got Penix,
Cody Pickett.
Cody Pickett, awesome. He's number 4, 6, 9, 11, and 12. And I say 11 and 12 because in order to get to 5 players, we actually have to go further than the top 10 because Cody Pickett, Michael Penix, so many. So you nailed the first 2. I think there's another one you're going to get. It's in your era. It was a big game and it caused someone to get fired.
Yep, Keith Price.
Yep, you nailed it. You knew it. It's totally your era.
Yeah.
Keith Price in the Alamo Bowl against RG3
Yeah.
threw for 438 yards. I remember
Yeah.
how awful that game was to watch.
Yeah. Throwback C-Town Sports. I wrote an article about how this defensive coordinator should be fired, and someone sent me a very angry email.
Yeah, that's because
And
his kid went to prep.
yeah, threatened to fight me.
Yeah, well,
He didn't
yeah,
fight me. I'm still alive, guys.
that's
Okay.
good. That's good. All right, the next 2 are going to be trickier. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you a year for number 10 on the list. It's 1989. Do you have any idea who that would be?
Ooh.
So this will be fun. People listening, I've
Yeah.
had many people say they love top 5.
Yeah,
So
it's got to
if
be
you're listening,
Mark Brunell.
1989 Husky quarterback Mark Brunell was right after that. So it's not Mark Brunell, 1 strike.
God, was it Chris Chandler?
Ah, he's right before that. It's in between. His name is Kerry Conklin. Do you know that name?
My dad would know that name, but no, no.
Yeah, he would. Your dad would know that name. 428 yards in 1989 against Arizona State. That's a tough one. Kerry Conklin's hard.
Bad quarter, like he was like the
he played in the NFL.
Yeah.
He played in the NFL. I don't know how many years, but he played in the NFL. But you're right. Chris Chandler was like right before it. You got Mark Brunell and Billy Joe Hobart, who both played in the NFL for a number of years after that.
And then the Hewitt brothers come. And
you get the Hewards and the
Tui made it too.
Fun fact about Kerry Conklin, actually, Kev, as I looked this up, he's an area scout for the Detroit Lions currently.
Traitor. Well, actually, no. He's not a traitor because
but he played in the NFL real quick. He's from Yakima, Washington. He played for 3 years. So last year was with the Niners. He was not very good in the NFL. All right. There's one more on the list that, I know you're done, but I just want to throw this out here. 1971 against Purdue. Do you know who that would be? Very famous Husky quarterback from the 70s.
Yeah, Sonny Sixkiller.
Nice job, Kev.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Sonny Sixkiller, 387 yards.
And he goes to Husky games still. He's he was at the national championship. High fived him. He's just
I grew up.
Yeah.
We were not friends, but I grew up with Sonny Sixkiller's son.
Yeah.
Played quarterback at Roosevelt, I think. He's pretty good player.
The best name in Seattle sports.
Oh, it's great. Yeah. So Will Rogers in his debut will have to hit at least 428 to get on the list.
There's no freaking way.
They're gonna run the ball too much too.
Even if he has a great day, they're pulling him after the third quarter, right? So
that's a good point. Yeah.
So he won't get it. And I don't think anyone's touching those Penix records for a while.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's getting in the top 10 in a while. 428.
It was like the perfect storm. He had 3 NFL wide receivers. He had a perfect offense. He himself was talented. Like
he had good tight ends. He's throwing to Devin Culp and Jack Westover, right? Like, he had weapons everywhere. Yeah.
And an Michael NFL Penix, offensive line. Yeah. Everything was perfect.
I mean, everybody knows Penix is good. The Falcons know. That's why they won't play him in the preseason because they're terrified of all the Penix jerseys in the ATL in the crowd yelling Penix, and Kirk Cousins is shaking.
Yeah. You know what? I don't care if we go, I'm kind of like, people are like, well, I can't listen to podcasts for an hour. I don't care. Like, this was an hour of good stuff.
It was
so
fun.
We have 20 subscribers on Spotify, 10 on Apple. That gives us 30 subscribers.
I feel like you should lie about our numbers to hype us up a little bit, but that's okay. We keep it pretty real here. We don't really lie about anything. Kev, we do have
Uh,
more readers theoretically, although
we
who
had more
knows.
readers that every time we podcast, we have more. We literally have more readers than we do.
I told you a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, oh, we'll get to 100 by the end of August. We're way over 100 now, and we
Yeah.
got readers. And what are they going to read this week, Kev? You got a lot of stuff coming out.
Yeah, we got cool stuff. We got Big Ten like team preview power rankings tomorrow, or this week, not tomorrow. Um, and then we'll have a series going on during the season. Well, we're trying to track down a reporter or a blogger from that covers the other team, and then we'll ask them questions. So there's a guy that covers Weber State football. I
Let's
found him,
go. Let's go.
and we'll have that, and then I'll do game previews for the Huskies, and so I'll do
Yep.
game previews and some picks.
It's awesome.
And
You're gonna do
that's
college picks this year, and
yeah,
then once the NFL starts the following week, I'm gonna do NFL picks every
NFL
week.
picks. Yeah,
I might try to emulate you and see if we can find a Broncos blogger to ask some questions for that
yeah.
week. Although I don't really want to talk to somebody about Bo Nix, God, ugh. But maybe I can just only ask him about Russell Wilson.
You could do like a chat GPT. I'm coming up with all these good ideas.
It's great. I love it. Well, also this week, I'll go ahead and put out the next 10 in our top 100. We're going to get up to number 31.
Here we go.
And then maybe by next weekend, we'll get into the top 20, maybe by the following week. So
Yep.
we're going to have that slow roll and make people wait for it.
Yep. Wait for it.
Wait
Seattle.
for it.
Thank
This
you
is fun.
yeah.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
see you,
joining
man.
us.
Yep. Shout out to Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah.
Jersey retired.
Shout out to the early birds.
How about real fast?
Yeah.
Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe. I just thought of this. Both jerseys retired. That's got to be something. Yeah, that's got to be something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
somebody do the research for us on that one.
Yeah.
All
right. See y'all next week.